Hello, and welcome to the Dark Enlightenment. I'm just going to get this out of the way. There is no way in hell Trump is going to be impeached. It's simply not within the realm of possibility. Now in this video, I'm going to address all the accusations the Dems and the mainstream media are trying to use for the basis of impeachment, and show you why they're complete bullshit. You know, when the Democrats lost the election to Donald Trump, you'd expect some shock from this completely unexpected win. In a period of time in which they go through the 5 stages of mourning and grief. That's fine, that's totally understandable, but you'd expect that after a few weeks, they would come to accept the reality of the situation and begin a process of self-introspection, where they ask themselves, how did they get blown the fuck out by a man with no political experience, despite outspending him significantly? I mean, the Dems had Soros and Wall Street. Trump had shitlords on Twitter and weaponized 4chan autism. Instead of practicing some self-introspection or working to develop a meaningful and attractive socioeconomic message that might win back the voters they lost to Trump, they decided to meme a conspiracy theory into reality. You know, I am so tired of hearing all these Russia conspiracy theories. All year, all I've heard on the news out of the Democrats and the mainstream media is Russia, 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 Russia. Just shut the fuck up about Russia. Russia is not why you lost the election. Russia is not why blue states that voted for Obama flipped red. Russia is not why the Rust Belt voted Trump. And Russia is not why you ran an out-of-touch, corrupt, lifelong politician whose only pitch to the voters is, I'm a woman and I'm not Donald Trump. But because self-introspection is hard, and the Democrats have instead chosen to pitch this McCarthyism, this Mored's under-the-bed conspiracy bullshit to try and delegitimize Trump's presidency and subvert the will of the people by working to get him impeached. This entire situation is a Democratic equivalent to the birther movement. A conspiracy theory that has zero evidence to back up their claims and simply makes them look foolish. You know, I honestly believe Donald Trump is using this whole Russiagate conspiracy as a red herring to get the Democrats and the mainstream media to burn all their political capital and destroy their credibility on the most ridiculous tinfoil hat conspiracy possible, that the President of the United States is a fucking Russian agent. Now, I know some of the Trump movement are dismayed or blackpilled or even frightened or worried about the possibility of Trump being impeached. Don't be. Trump is not going to be impeached, and here's why. First reason is that the Republicans control both the House and the Senate. The Democrats have seemed to have forgotten that they don't have any power. So let's say there is evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia, which there isn't. Let's say there is evidence that shows Trump personally broke the law, which he didn't. By the way, he's not even being accused of breaking any particular law. But for the sake of argumentation, let's say that he is. Let's say that there is grounds for impeachment, which there isn't. A successful impeachment would take a significant uprising of Republicans, including Republicans from states in which Trump carried with a significant margin, or states that Trump flipped, and a unified Democratic Party. There's no way in hell a Republican from a state that Trump flipped or carried would vote for the impeachment of Trump. It would be political suicide in the upcoming 2018 midterms. Remember, Trump still has above an 80% approval rating among Republicans. And most of the Republicans that vote against Trump would end up losing their seats. Okay, and now here's the second reason. Trump hasn't done anything and isn't even being accused of doing anything that is impeachable. Democrats and the mainstream media have been unable to answer the simple question, what law has Trump broken? They haven't been able to point to a single crime. They have simply spun everything Trump does or says into an unprecedented act of creeping fascism and corruption. Hell, I'm surprised they're not calling for his impeachment on the basis that he got 2 scoops of fucking ice cream. The media and the Democrats have gone full Stalinist with this, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So let's break down some of their talking points that the Democrats and the mainstream media are using for the grounds for impeachment, and why they're complete bullshit. First, Trump isn't actually personally under FBI investigation. His campaign is. Which means that even if everything turns out to be true, and all the anonymous sources turn out to be telling the truth, and none of this is overblown, Trump can simply claim plausible deniability. But that's besides the point. So what is Trump being accused of? Well, firstly, there's the firing of Michael Flynn and Flynn's connection to Russia. Flynn was fired not because of his communications with Russia, but because he lied to the vice president about it and other information. There's nothing to this. Flynn didn't even break any laws. Now, there's the claim that 18 other Trump aides have allegedly, and according to an anonymous source, had contact with the Russians. Once again, all this is according to anonymous sources. So first of all, we have no way of discerning the legitimacy of these sources or even if they exist. Secondly, they're once again not even being accused of a crime or even being accused of colluding with Russia, simply having contact with the Russians. And having contact with Russian officials isn't a crime. Bad politics perhaps, but not a crime. Thirdly, there's no hard evidence linking any of this, if it was true, to direct order from Trump. Once again, this is nothing. It's all just political kabuki theater and innuendo. There's nothing here. Then there's the firing of James Comey. Some are claiming this is an executive overreach. The firing of Comey is in itself an impeachable offense. That somehow the firing of Comey is somehow a constitutional crisis. This is just simply fake news. The FBI directors serve at the pleasure of the president. The president can, at any time and for any reason, fire the director of the FBI. It is completely within his constitutional powers. Now, liberals claim that the timing of the firing was unacceptable. It came after several bizarre testimonies on the part of James Comey, and after the Deputy Attorney General, an Obama appointee and highly respected in a bipartisan manner, sent a letter to Trump containing letters from other attorney generals highly recommending the firing of James Comey. That was the catalyst. But in truth, there was no good time to fire Comey. The left would be making just as much noise if Trump fired Comey at the beginning of his presidency. Also, the accusations that Trump fired Comey to slow down the Russian investigation are absurd. The investigation doesn't simply cease because Comey was fired. It was passed on to the deputy director. Next, there's the Comey memo that was leaked to the press, which apparently outlines obstruction of justice. There's so much wrong with this talking point, I don't even know where to begin. Firstly, let's look at the wording of the letter. Trump said, and I quote, I hope you can let the Flynn investigation go. That is passive language and does not in any way constitute obstruction of justice. It would be a stretch to consider it pressuring a law enforcement official because of the passive language. I hope. Okay, next is the fact that no writings or recordings are allowed when meeting with the president. So this memo was taken after the fact. And Trump denies that these claims and that they ever happened. And he also claims to have a recording himself of the meeting. Now, since this happened months ago, and it's just coming out now, this puts Comey in the position where if he claims Trump obstructed justice, he too could face time behind bars. See, it is a crime not to report any cases of obstruction of justice, even by the president. It would be James Comey's legal duty to take this information, if it exists, and it is correct, to the Attorney General. It is a federal crime in which the perpetrator would face time behind bars. So there are three possibilities. One is that the memo is fake and Comey exonerates Trump in the constitutional hearing, or in the congressional hearings. Two is that the memo is real, but to avoid jail time, Comey does what he did with Hillary and exonerates Trump. Or three, the worst case scenario, Comey decides to martyr himself and it becomes his word versus Trump's, whether this conversation even happened. Furthermore, it's subjective whether or not this actually constitutes obstruction of justice. Trump could also simply claim plausible deniability and say that his intent was not to obstruct justice, but that he was simply stating that he hopes the investigation around his friend dies down. So even if this memo is 100% legit and Comey testifies that he believes Trump subjectively obstructed justice, it would still not be enough to impeach Trump. Once again, there's nothing here. Finally, there are the accusations of Trump leaking classified information to the Russians, also known as sharing intelligence or cooperating. By the way the mainstream media spins this, Trump illegally leaked our most sensitive secrets and that of our allies to Russian adversaries. Trump has, since he was campaigning, stated that he wants to work with the Russians to eliminate terrorism. The information given to the Russians was apparently sensitive, not classified, information pertaining to a possible threat, which included the use of airplanes and laptops. That's all we know. And once again, this is from an unverified, anonymous source originating from an extremely hostile news organization. Oh, and here's why this talking point is complete partisan bullshit. First and foremost, the President of the United States has the legal and constitutional authority to declassify whatever he wants. So even if he did share it, or as they like to call it, leak classified information to the Russians, it would have been immediately declassified by Trump, allowing him to share the intelligence. So worst case scenario, this is just bad politics. Trump was operating within his legal and constitutional authority, and therefore there is no crime nor basis for impeachment here. There is nothing here. Furthermore, every single person that was in the room denies any wrongdoing. General McMaster denies every single one of these claims. The Russians deny every single one of these claims. So what we have here is the word of an anonymous source that we don't even know exists, coming from a hostile news organization against the word of everyone that we actually know was in the room. Okay, so let's recap. There is no way Trump is going to be impeached. The Democrats simply don't have the votes, even if Trump was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have any power. What Trump has done has been within his constitutional authority. You can, at worst, call it bad politics, but not criminal behavior. And the Democrats have been able to point to a single crime he has committed. Trump isn't even under direct investigation, as some of his adversaries would say. Only his aides. And they're only being accused of being in contact with the Russians, which is, again, not a crime. They say the firing of Comey in itself is an impeachable offense. Once again, this is ridiculous. The president has the power to fire the director of the FBI at any time for any reason. The director serves at the pleasure of the president. Again, he is within his constitutional authority and no crime was committed. The charge of obstruction of justice. First of all, if Comey believes it was obstruction of justice, he would have reported it immediately to the DOJ. Not doing so is a crime that would land him in jail, and that's considering this memo is 100% legit. And finally, the president doesn't leak classified information. He has the full constitutional authority to declassify anything he sees fit. So anything that he told the Russians was completely within his legal authority to do so. So once again, no laws were broken. He was operating within the boundary of the Constitution, and therefore cannot be impeached. You know, I personally found this entire Russian conspiracy to be quite amusing at first. I almost couldn't believe that the Democrats and the left and the mainstream media actually believe this new Red Scare conspiracy theory, that they actually believe that Trump was a Russian agent, was too laughable to take seriously. I personally thought that this would blow over within a few weeks. Geez, was I wrong. This is a perfect display of cognitive dissonance and denial as to why they lost, and a perfect example of Trump derangement syndrome. Now, you know, I actually truly hope that this absurd conspiracy theory continues, and that they continue to make a fool of themselves, and going on this wild goose chase, trying to placate their base, and playing to their confirmation bias. I truly hope that they continue to remain inside their liberal echo chambers and not develop a compelling economic message that would win back states like Michigan or the Rust Belt. People are truly suffering in a lot of these areas, whether it be from opioid addiction or massive unemployment. What do you think these people think when these people who are suffering and struggling to feed their families, what do you think they think when they turn on the TV and all they see is CNN ignoring their problems and bitching about Trump getting 2 scoops of ice cream? What do they think when all they see on TV is anonymous sources and Russian conspiracy theories when they have real problems going on in their lives, with CNN and the Democrats ignoring them, and ignoring the country? How do you think they would end up reacting to a man who, amongst all this noise, comes to their towns and their states and says, I care about you. I care about your problems, and they will be addressed. When this man comes in and is seemingly the only man on the planet who actually cares about them and their problems. Now, how do you think they feel when they see the Democrats trying to overthrow this man from power, who is democratically elected? How do you think they feel towards the mainstream media and towards the Democrats who have abandoned them and now want to strip away what little hope they have? Like I said earlier in the video, I'd be surprised if this wasn't a strategy by Trump to continue leading the Democrats and the mainstream media down this absurd path of conspiracy theories and modern McCarthyism. This Red Scare hysteria leading them to ignore the voters they lost. In my opinion, this is Trump playing 4D chess, and I look forward to the midterms where they scream Russia and get slaughtered. And that's all for today.